Hello. Welcome to Football Over. YouTube channel updates football news today, and the fun of the football world. You can follow us on Subscribe Now. Liverpool have already shown Manchester United what's next in battle with Glazer family. The scenes at Old Trafford on Sunday were reminiscent of a bygone era for the Liverpool supporters. The scenes at Old Trafford on Sunday were reminiscent of a bygone era for the Liverpool supporters tuning into their televisions. With football fans still locked out of stadia across the country, Reds followers were left only with the option of huddling around the TV screens for the biggest game in English football over the weekend. For their United counterparts, however, this was the time to finally re-enter Old Trafford. But while the return of supporters across the land has long been a wish of all connected with the sport, this was not how it should have been. Instead of turning up to pack the stands and cheer on their teams, the mood as United fans filtered into the ground itself was of anger. The Glazer family and their role in the attempted coup of football just 2 weeks ago mobilized the United supporters. The Americans have always been disliked for their heavily leveraged buyout and saddling the club with large debt. But the Super League proposals appear to have been the straw that has broken the camel's back. Liverpool fans, still reeling from Fenway Sports Group's own involvement in the Super League shambles, will have been keenly aware of the depth of feeling up the end of the M62. FSG are nowhere near as reviled as the Glazers are in the respective eyes of the two sets of supporters, but their standing has plummeted to arguably an all-time low in recent weeks at Anfield. But while the protests outside the ground on Sunday will have looked familiar to Reds fans, it is not FSG who have felt the backdraft from mismanagement as absentee owners. For that, you have to trawl back 11 years to a time when Tom Hicks and George Gillett had driven Liverpool FC to the brink of financial ruin. Reds supporters worked tirelessly over years to ensure that the previous owners would leave the club. Their efforts included a march in 2009 on the day that Liverpool welcomed Manchester United to town, no less. Thousands lined the streets in protest in September of that year ahead of a 2-0 win, but that was not the first time the anti-Hicks and Gillett sentiment had been made public at Anfield. After a 3-0 win over Sunderland in 2008, a post-match demonstration was dignified and effective as around 2,000 fans stayed behind after the final whistle to vent their frustration. Once more, they gathered in large numbers ahead of a 2-2 draw with Sunderland to send Hicks and Gillett a firm message about how they were no longer welcome at their football club in 2010. Around 5,000 supporters stayed behind after the final whistle, imploring the businessmen to sell. Lasting around 30 minutes, songs were repeatedly aired against Hicks and Gillett as Steven Gerrard and Jamie Carragher applauded the efforts as they left the pitch. At the time, the Royal Bank of Scotland, which was owed £237.4 million of the club's £282 million debts, was due to make a decision on recalling its loan the following month. It wasn't just marches and protests that Liverpool fans used to show their ire at the club's ownership. Supporters put together a coordinated email campaign to the Royal Bank of Scotland warning of a boycott if the bank renewed the reviled owner's loan. And after Tom Hicks was spotted outside JP Morgan and Deutsche Bank in New York, Liverpool supporters flooded the organization with emails warning them against loaning the Texan money to refinance. It would finally take a dramatic High Court ruling in October 2010 to finally uproot the detested American owners, but Liverpool fans did it. And perhaps, as the smoke begins to clear on Sir Matt Busby Way on Monday, the United faithful can look at their most fierce rivals for directions on where to go next. After all, an isolated march and a high-profile protest is unlikely to be enough to turf the Glazers out of Old Trafford office. The efforts of those protesters whose intentions were peaceful succeeded in calling a halt on the show on Sunday, but it will go on, eventually. It always does. But if United supporters are serious, then they only need to look to Liverpool a decade ago to see how to keep the heat on. The two situations are not identical, and while Hicks and Gillett struggled to stay afloat amid crippling interest payments, United are in no dire straits on the balance sheets. And while the two fan bases will always enjoy one of the most vociferous rivalries in the game, there is more that unites than divides where football supporters are concerned. The last couple of weeks have proven that much, at least. I did not know. Norwich fullback reacts to Liverpool interest in 2020. Norwich fullback Dimitris Giannoulis has revealed that he had no idea Liverpool were previously interested in signing him from PAOK. According to Gazzetta, Former PAOK boss Abel Ferreira confirmed that Liverpool wanted to sign the Greek international last summer. Giannoulis, however, says that he did not realize Liverpool were one of the clubs trying to land him. He says that he spoke with Ferreira about some of the clubs he could sign for, but Liverpool were not one of them. Speaking to Gazzetta, Giannoulis reacted to the news that Liverpool showed interest in him. "I did not know about Liverpool. We had talked and he told me that there were teams that wanted me, but I did not know about Liverpool." Liverpool did end up signing a Greek international fullback to compete with Andy Robertson, it just wasn't Giannoulis. Kostas Tsimikas joined Liverpool for £11.70 million last summer and has struggled with form and injuries at Anfield this season. Tsimikas has played 5 minutes of Premier League football and Robertson has started every single match so far in the league. Giannoulis, meanwhile, is set to sign for Norwich at the start of the next transfer window for £6.75 million, having been on loan to the East Anglian club since January. The 25-year-old has averaged a scored rating of 6.96 across 15 championship appearances for Norwich to help them win the division this year. He has also impressed for the Greek national team, with an average rating of 7.24 across 4 Nations League games for his country. Tsimikas, on the other hand, averaged a score of 6.74 in 2 Nations League appearances for Greece. This suggests that Giannoulis is ahead of Tsimikas in the pecking order for Greece whilst also performing to a higher standard than the Liverpool man. Given that Tsimikas cost Liverpool just under £4 million more than Norwich are set to pay for Giannoulis, the Reds may wonder whether or not they missed a trick by passing up on Giannoulis. "21-year-old Liverpool targets agent reportedly working to seal transfer." The agent of 21-year-old Liverpool transfer target Dusan Vlahovic is reportedly working hard to secure a summer move for his client away from Fiorentina. According to Italian journalist Nicola Shira, Vlahovic has rejected a 4-year contract extension offer from Fiorentina, which would have given him €2 per year. Shira names Borussia Dortmund, Leipzig, Juventus, Milan and Tottenham among the clubs interested, whilst Liverpool have also been touted with a swoop for the Serbian. This could be a big boost for Liverpool in their attempts to sign Vlahovic this summer. The attacker still has 2 years left to run on his current deal with Fiorentina, but rejecting their offer of an extension is a signal of intent from Vlahovic to show that he does not want to be at the club in the long term. This, therefore, could convince the Italian team to cash in on him now whilst his price is high instead of risking a smaller payday further down the line. For example, if Fiorentina refuse to sell Vlahovic this summer and then decide to part ways with him at the end of the 2021-22 campaign, they may not be able to get as big of a transfer fee. Vlahovic would then only have 1 year left on his contract and could threaten to run down his deal and leave on a free transfer, leaving Fiorentina with pennies compared to what they could earn now. Vlahovic has scored 19 goals in the Serie A for Fiorentina this season and could be a solid addition to Liverpool's attacking options. The 21-year-old could provide Jurgen Klopp with an alternative option to Roberto Firmino in the Premier League, who has only managed 6 goals in all competitions this season for the Reds. This means that Vlahovic's agent wanting him to get a move this summer could work out well for Liverpool if it allows them to sign the forward in the coming months. Plenty, Pundit believes Liverpool outcast will attract Premier League interest. Former Southampton striker Kevin Phillips has claimed there will be plenty of Premier League clubs willing to sign Liverpool outcast Takumi Minamino this summer. Phillips says that Minamino may not have had an instant impact at Liverpool because he does not have the quality they expected him to have, but suggests that other Premier League teams could want to take a punt on him at the end of the season. Minamino joined Liverpool from RB Salzburg at the start of 2020 and is currently on loan to Southampton in the Premier League. Speaking to Football Insider, Phillips offered his thoughts on the Liverpool outcast. "There must be a reason he's not hit the ground running. Maybe he's not quite the player they thought they were signing. We've seen that happen over the years. Maybe he doesn't suit the style. Maybe the quality is not what they expected. It is a shame. I'm sure if it doesn't happen for him at Liverpool there will be plenty in the Premier League who will have a sniff, take him on and try and get the best out of him." As Phillips says, not all transfers work out and there have been players that just do not work out at clubs for a variety of reasons. Minamino has not been able to cut it at Liverpool in his career on Merseyside so far and his form for Southampton does not suggest that it will be any different next season. The midfielder joined Southampton in January after scoring once in 9 games for the Reds in the first half of the campaign and he has not had a huge impact at St Mary's. Minamino had a blistering start to his loan with Southampton as he scored in 2 of his first 3 games for the club, but he has not been able to do much since. He has averaged a dismal WhoScored rating of 6.43 across 7 Premier League appearances for Southampton, showing that his all-round play for Ralph Hasenhüttl's side has been poor. This suggests that the Liverpool midfielder is unlucky to come back in from the cold and rid himself of his outcast status. Therefore, if there is plenty of interest from Premier League teams, as Phillips believes there will be, Liverpool could sell him on this summer.